We start. Good evening, one and all. A very warm welcome to all of you lovely people for the third event of Shrinkala's Environmental Awareness Campaign 2021. For those of you who are new to Shrinkala, here's a quick intro. Shrinkala means connectedness, links, linkages, and is our endeavor to bring, 1 minute, I lost my screen. And it is our endeavor to bring people and art together in the Kingdom of Bahrain. It is a journey of sharing experiences and learnings that has made us who we are. It is a testimony of a unique collaboration and harmony for artistic ventures of Rekha Uttam, myself, Usha Ramesh, and Nisha Kotwani. You can log on to our Facebook pages to view the several events we have conducted over the last 4.5 years or so. We have covered art, history, literature, lifestyle, several subjects. As most of you will be aware, on June 5th, the United Nations celebrated the World Environment Day to encourage awareness and action towards protection of the environment. The theme for this year is reimagine, recreate, restore. As a small contribution to this greater cause, Shrinkala launched a month-long environmental awareness campaign on June 5th. With interactive sessions on digital platforms, the campaign is covering topics like waste management at home, plastic waste recycling, saving plants in our harsh summers, identifying and saving medicinal plants in Bahrain, building bird houses, and a lot more interesting stuff. We were off on an excellent start on 5th June to mark the World Environment Day with a talk on minimalism by Mr. Kai Mithik. He talked to us about the little things that we could all do to build into our daily chores to do our part to save the environment. We have posted tips on Shrinkala page on Facebook and Instagram, and will be posting more from time to time. So look out and stay tuned, as these tips will tell us how to make little adjustments in our daily lives to help create a cleaner, healthier environment around us. On June 7th, we had watercolors and art and craft workshop, which had 49 attendees, some adults, mostly children. The enthusiasm was overwhelming. We learned to use watercolors to paint nature. We made bird houses, we made flower pots. So you see, with this campaign, we are focusing on the importance of protecting nature and its resources. Our workshops, talks, webinars will be held every Monday and Thursday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. till June 30th. Attendance is open to all age groups. Children above 5 are most welcome to join the workshops. We've also announced an Eco Champion contest. You would have seen our posts about this contest in our social media platforms. We will share the details of this towards the end of this first session. It's very important to tell you that this environmental awareness campaign is a brainchild of Dr. Anamika Bhattacharya, who is a nature enthusiast, a freelance educator, research consultant on green energy, a self-taught artist, and lives in Bahrain at the moment. She's also a self-taught artist. She has over 10 years of research experience, loves photography, writes poetry, short articles, loves crafting, gardening, traveling, writing poetry, and reading. To add to this, she has also got a diploma in Robindra Sangeet. We are thankful to several individuals. Notable amongst them is Miss Sarah Clark for getting us all the media connect to publicize this campaign. Sarah herself is a nature and art enthusiast, known more for Balu's Buddies page on social media. We are thankful to you, our audience, who are participating so enthusiastically. It is our collective effort and our little deeds that will contribute towards saving this environment. Today's first topic for the webinar is benefits of Ayurvedic medicines from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. with Dr. Alka Vijayan. And the second topic, scheduled from 5 to 6, is a talk on gardening and Caring About Plants During Our Summer Months by Ms. Farhana Jaber Shakar. So without any further delays, let us start the first session. The presenter is the ever so beautiful young millennial Ayurvedic doctor and nutrition advisor, Dr. Alka Vijayan. Let's welcome Dr. Alka. Now, when we met Dr. Alka, our jaws dropped. What is this trendy, totally beautiful young lady doing with a topic discussed by the more serious and elderly? It was unbelievable. Well, here she is, our young millennial, Dr. Alka Vijayan. We are grateful to you, Dr. Alka, for agreeing to give us your time. Friends, a quick introduction. Dr. Alka Vijayan is a graduate of the oldest Ayurvedic institution, Government Ayurveda College, founded in 1889 in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. Dr. Alka is currently practicing in her hometown by promoting traditional Ayurveda medicine and food habits, using fresh herbs and formulations sourced from her family's integrated farm, Vaishak Gardens, situated around the Western Ghats. Dr. Alka Vijayan is the founder of Tanmatra Ayurveda, a nutraceutical venture. We'll discuss this as we go along, that focuses on introducing conscious, unrefined, preservative-free consumables using Ayurveda herbs and know-how that helps in solving new age health issues and maintenance of a balanced lifestyle. Dr. Vijayan is here to discuss and interact with us and answer all our questions and doubts about our day-to-day routine and lifestyle. So Dr. Alka, shall we start? First and foremost,
Sure. Thank you for that.
First and foremost, let us get on to some basics. Please tell us more about this deep-rooted connection between Ayurveda and nature.
First of all, thank you for inviting me for that. Such a wonderful program. I'm glad that I'm being able to share the knowledge that I've harnessed over the years and pass it on to the audience, which I think is more relevant than ever before, considering the pandemic era. Because what we have found, like we the doctors of Ayurvedic presently have found is Ayurveda seems to be more efficient in preventing as well as helping manage the COVID, like the post-COVID kind of issues better than any other system of medicine. And what has come more handy is the daily regimen or like dinacharya. So talking about the deep-rooted connection between Ayurveda and nature, something very basic that we all know. I hope I'm audible.
Could you hold
I
the
hope I'm audible.
mouthpiece closer to your, yeah.
Okay, any better?
Yes, much better.
Any better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was talking about the connection between Ayurveda and nature. See, something very basic that we all know is that every matter in the universe is made out of the basic elements, like the basic subatomic particles, like the protons, electrons, and neutrons, plus energy. Now, there is an Ayurvedic counterpart of the same, which are called the Panchamahabhutas, or the 5 basic elements. So this is present in our body as well as the nature and everything in the universe. So whenever something is any of these, like in any out of the 5 Panchamahabhutas or 5 basic elements goes missing from our body, we can supplement the same from the nature, be it herbs or animal products or metals or minerals. They can be supplemented from the nature in one or the other form. So that is
Alka,
why we see.
Alka, if I may interrupt, your voice is breaking because when you're moving up and down, I think that is when the garble is coming. So just stay steady and try to speak. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So should I start from like from the beginning? Do I start from the beginning?
No, go from here.
Okay. So as I was saying, like everything in the universe is made from these 5 basic elements called the Panchamahabhutas. So whenever any one of these basic 5 elements are missing in our body, we can supplement the same from the nature in one or the other form, be it herbs or animal products or metals or minerals. So that is why wherever we talk about Ayurveda, we get to see about nature as well, because we are using the products available in the nature or the things that are available from the nature for rectifying the issues in our body as well. And moreover, we are also a part and parcel of this nature. So that is about Ayurveda and nature. Like wherever you get to talk about nature, you find Ayurveda as well.
Can I ask a question? Can I interrupt, or
Yes.
questions are towards the end? Okay. My question is, how do the elements go missing? I mean, what causes the elements to go missing in our body?
See,
Is
it's
it
like,
is it just the balance that is lost, or the elements are actually missing?
no, basically what happens is like these 5 basic elements, they are further classified in the form of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So whenever any one of these goes missing, because of the wrong food or the wrong lifestyle or the climatic change, it goes missing, or it goes a little low than it should be usual, or it goes a little high than it should be usual. So that is when the disease pops in, and that is when we have to supplement the body with the tea. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Therefore, going from that, what causes this lack of balance? Is it a lack of a regimen or a routine? How important is routine and regimen in our
So
life?
it's like, so as to maintain this particular homeostasis in our body, this state of equilibrium, we have to live in tandem with the nature, as well as we have to eat food accordingly. See, it's usually when the food or our lifestyle or because of the sudden change in climate, that we experience this state of disequilibrium called disease or ill health. Now, if we can, like, follow a healthier lifestyle or eat as per the requirement of our body or do the seasonal cleansing, this disharmony or this equilibrium doesn't get established. So that is where the importance of daily regimen and seasonal regimen comes in.
Right.
So
So
this,
carry on.
yeah,
Can you
yeah,
tell
yeah,
us,
you can tell
can
me.
you tell us what should be an ideal daily regimen? Are there any steps to
Okay.
follow?
So yes, there are it's basically a 13-step procedure that is to be done on a daily basis to maintain our health and to ensure that the waste have been, waste or the impurities have been expelled from our body. See, this thing is to be basically done because we as human beings, we do not live in an airtight compartment. Rather, we live in continuum with the nature. Say, for example, you wake up in the morning, you feel slightly groggy and a little cold. And as the day progresses and by noon, when the sun is up, you feel extremely hot, right? That means like your body is responding to the outside atmosphere. So as to make the this adaptation all the more easier, such that the body doesn't go into this that it cannot adapt to the change. Okay. So it's like this 13-step procedure which is being mentioned in the classical textbook. I'm calculating them into 6 stages so that it's easier to understand and it's easier to grasp. It's basically it talks about when to wake up, then what are the cleansing procedures, then self-care or beautification. I think almost all of us would be interested to know about that more. And Ayurveda does talk about beautification on a daily basis, not just, yeah.
Alka, we cannot hear you again.
Yeah,
You're breaking
yeah.
up.
Voice is breaking.
Do you have any slides to
How
share
is
with
it
us?
now?
Now
How
try.
is it now?
Yeah, it's better. So you were talking about
Yeah.
this, the 13 steps. Can you go from there? Because we almost lost you. You were too garbled.
Okay.
Maybe Dr. Alga, you can try without your earphone. Just try without them.
Okay, I'll try it and do that.
Is it any better now?
Much better.
Much better.
Any
There's
better?
some background noise. If that can be hushed, yeah, you are very audible. Yeah.
Okay. I believe this is better.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we were talking about the 13 steps which are to be followed such that we can live in tandem with the nature. So these 13 steps I would like to encapsulate them into 6 steps so that it is easier to grasp it and so that you can remember it better. So it basically includes like when to wake up, what are the steps involved in cleansing, 3, what are the self-care or beautification tips? And these beautification tips are not by using creams and external applications, but these are by using some easy tips, easy things that you can obtain easily in your surroundings. 4, like workout. 4 is about exercise. What are the things to be taken care or what are the things to be done before workout? Then about food, how to nourish your body through the day and when to go to sleep. So these are the basic 6 steps involved in the same.
Okay. So let's start with the waking up routine. Why is it so important to wake up early in the morning, and how early is early?
Okay, so it's like Ayurvedically, we should be waking up early in the morning, as you may already know. And this particular time of the day when you should be waking, it is called Brahma Muhurta. Brahma Muhurta is actually a Muhurtam. A Muhurtam is approximately 48 minutes. And this particular Muhurtam starts about 96 minutes before sunrise. And as you may already know, the timing for sunrise keeps changing every day. So you got to keep a track, like when the sun is going to rise the coming day. So if we can keep a track when it is going to rise, so it's a time between 96 minutes prior sunrise to 48 minutes, that time gap. So that is called Brahma Muhurta, and it is called Brahma Muhurta because that is when the body and the mind is the most awake, provided you go to bed the previous night early. Okay,
All right.
so that is when you should be waking up and you should be starting your day. Speaking about it a little bit more, it's like it is the Vata Kala, basically 2 to 6 a.m. early in the morning is Vata Kala, and peak of that hour is when the body is the most active. So that is the reason why we should be waking up during Brahma Muhurta or early morning. Practically, I tell my patients, if not Brahma Muhurtam, at least wake up just before the sunrise.
Which is about 4 o'clock. 4 a.m.
No, it can be just like
Okay.
6 a.m. is good enough.
Okay.
At least.
So the second aspect you said is cleansing of the body and the steps involved. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
So it's like, cleansing to start with is very important. Only if your body is clutter free, you will be able to function better because only then you will have clarity of senses and ease of movement, etc. Ayurveda basically talks about 2 levels of cleansing. One is the daily cleansing, and the other one is Ritucharya or seasonal cleansing, about which we shall talk about later. So today we'll be talking about the daily cleansing. Daily cleansing basically includes 2 major steps, which is like bowel and bladder evacuation. This is to be done immediately after waking up. Now, that being said, if you do not get the urge for the same, do not go for it because all these are urges or vegas which are to be expressed by the body. See, if you're a person who has got good metabolism, you pass bowel upon waking up in the morning itself or immediately after drinking some warm water. Now, if you do not get the urge, it means that you have got some metabolic error. There is some digestive error in your body, which needs to be rectified with the help of medicines, etc. Otherwise, if you have the urge for the same, pass the bowel and pass the urine. So these are the two important aspects of cleansing. There is also external cleansing, which is shower, and that is to be done after we do the self-care or the beauty, like the steps for beautification. So that is about the cleansing, and while taking shower, few things that you have to bear in mind is always take shower just before your food intake, and if possible, try applying oil before shower, and also try exercising before that. So these are the prerequisites before you go for shower.
All right. That takes us to beauty and self-care tips, which is the third step which you mentioned.
Okay. So, after waking up during the Brahma Muhurta and cleansing your body, then is when you should be actually going for the self-care or beauty tips. Here, while talking about the beauty tips or self-care, Ayurveda not just talks about the external beauty part. In fact, it talks about beautification in terms of, like, by maintaining the health, ensuring there is proper functioning of these senses, and that is how you got to take care of the same. There are basically 3 steps involved. First one is application of kajal, which is called anjanam, and it is to be done using the Ayurvedic kohl, like the medicated kohl. Second one is nasyam, which is application or installation of 2 drops of medicated oil, specifically Anutailam, provided you do not have any long-standing infection currently. Then you should be going for nasal installation. And this is the one which I normally, which all the doctors have been suggesting as part of preventive care as well. This is Anutailam, and this is what it looks like, because I wanted to introduce it to a larger crowd to know that this is the primary care that you should be taking as part of prevention. Okay, so this you can do on a daily basis. All what you got to do is like either apply 2 drops inside your nostril, or just instill 2 drops, like bend your head backward and instill 2 drops. That is all what's required. This nasal installation is not just for the upper respiratory tract health, but it is also for cleansing the channels of eye, ears, then throat. Also, it improves the blood circulation in the head and neck region. It has got a whole lot of health benefits. Now, it might sound a little confusing and a little exaggerated, but when we get deeper into the science, we'll be able to understand it better, because we get to see that and experience the same in our clinics, like, the effect that people feel upon using the same. And the third step involved is swishing, which is like quite... swishing or gargling, which is like quite a trend nowadays. But while doing the same, it is not always compulsory that you should be doing oil pulling itself. In fact, coconut oil is just one of the options. We should know which is the one suitable for our body at the present state. Like, you can either go for warm water or a decoction, like a Triphala decoction, depending on the status of your health. It could be sesame oil or it could be coconut oil. And this option has to be decided depending on the status of your health. So these are the basic steps involved in maintaining the health of the eyes, such that it's like you have the glowing, big glowing eyes. Then your nostril is like, by the nasal installation, all your senses are functioning well. Then with gargling, you have the glistening white teeth. And also, this also helps in the skin health, like the natural skin, naturally glowing skin. So these are the beauty tips or the beautification tips that you got to do on a daily basis.
Okay. This Anutailam can be used by anyone?
Okay. See, Anutailam can be used by all those people who are healthy. unless and until they have got any ongoing infection, like you have got sore throat or tonsillitis, or you have sinusitis, then you should not be using it. Or you have got any, like, eye infection, ear infection, then you should not be using it. Get treated for the same, and then you can start using it.
Right.
In fact, another nasal installation is also good for, like, your scalp and improving blood circulation to your hair follicles and all. So it's good for hair health as well.
Right. So any questions on beauty tips for and self-care from anyone? Because we'll move on to the next step, which is exercise after this. I think we'll move on to exercise.
Hang on.
Okay. Okay.
It's Sarah from England, who, as
Sarah,
you can tell,
Hey,
at the
hi.
moment has a really bad cold, and I would
Right.
love a tip that I could relieve the congestion in my head.
Okay, you have got a nasal congestion. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, and throat everywhere. It's allergies. Allergy City in UK.
Oh, no, I didn't get you. Can you come again, please?
May I?
It's allergies.
You have got allergies, like the morning allergy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say that the simplest thing that you can do is, like, if you have got some original turmeric handy with you, like, turmeric, the Great Indian spice.
Yes.
If you can get the pure same, take 1/4 teaspoon, mix it with honey, and start.
Sarah, did you get that?
Some of it, only half of it. It was turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon turmeric and honey, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you write
First
it
thing
in
is
the chat?
Yes, we will write it. Alka, can you just say again what has to be done?
Quarter teaspoon honey,
Okay.
and
Honey?
the pure farm. In the morning when you wake up, and just before sleep in the night.
So 1/2 teaspoon honey mixed with turmeric, right?
1/4 teaspoon turmeric powder.
Early morning and last thing at night.
Yes. She can also avoid all uncooked foods.
Yes. There's a question here about, Sarah, does that answer all your questions? Yes.
Yeah.
There is a question about.
Usha, shall we do the questions later after you have run through the whole
Sure.
thing?
Sure. So let's move on to exercise.
Okay. After this, after the self-care or after taking care of the head and neck region, then is when we should be considering the whole body. Okay. And it's as part of the self-care or the beautification of the whole body, we talk about exercise. And prior to exercise is when you should be applying oil, if possible. Like, and if you can apply on a daily basis, all the more better, followed by exercise. Okay. If you're unable to, and if you do not have the time to apply oil on a daily basis, make it a point to apply oil at least on your scalp, ear pinning, and soles. both the soles. These are for ensuring the proper functioning of the nerves in the body. Now the question will be there, if you oil your scalp daily, don't we have to wash it daily? Yes, Ayurveda says you need to wash your hair daily as well. So that is about oil application, and the oil depends on your body type. It's not the same for everybody. Depending on your body type, if your body is towards the warmer side, it's a different one. If it's like towards the sluggish side, it's a different one. So the oil is never constant, just that you have to warm the oil before application. The other thing is, before applying the oil, your system feels light. All right, requisite that you need before oil. Now, generally we feel that, or we are under the impression that we can work out during any time of the day. It's like it's okay to work out in the morning, noon, after breakfast, after food, or like in the evening. But I will specifically say that you should be working out in the morning. In the morning, empty stomach, not even like snacks or water, okay? It has to be empty stomach. And when you work out, it has to be, again, depending on your body type. Say, for example, you are towards the obese side, then you go to work out a little bit more. Now, if you're towards the hyperactive kind, like you're very active and the superactive kind, then you do not need the kind of excessive exertion. Rather, what you need is something more relaxing, something like yoga and meditation. So it's basically depending on your body type that we need to figure out which workout is the best for you. And even when you work out, don't bother with the number of hours, like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. No, you should not be doing that. Rather, you should be working out until you start panting, or you start sweating on your forehead, nose, underarms or joints, or unto half of your strength. Now, what happens if you do beyond that is that you are actually spending out the innate energy or the urges of your body, which is actually required for the functioning of your body. You should not be dissipating that. Rather, you should be just preserving the energy. And the reason why you have to work out is to ensure that the blood, there's proper blood circulation to every single part of your body, such that it starts flowing. Okay, so that is how Ayurveda talks about the beauty tip or the self-care about the whole body. You have to do the Abhyangam, and followed by, it has to be Abhyangam as in oil application, which has to be followed by exercise. And it's only after exercise that you should be taking shower.
Right. Then that brings you to the fifth step you told us, which is about food and nourishment. What kind of foods should we absolutely have? What kind of food we should be consuming? How much water should we be drinking? Tell us those basic things.
All right. So talking about food and water, before I talk about how, when, what, and all, I would like to tell you, in fact, the the easy availability of all kinds of food is one of the major reasons that today people are falling ill more often than the previous times. We have so many metabolic disorders, autoimmune conditions. We are more prone to infections, and all these can be attributed to the easy availability of so many nourishing food, I guess. So, is there something that you wanted to ask?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So talking about food, I think we can cover mainly 5 topics under the same, so 5 subtopics, what is the right time to consume food? What should be the quantity, the quality, then about each meal, how many meals should one be consuming a day, and then how do we figure out if we are consuming a balanced diet? That should be able to should cover all the topics. So talking about the timing of food, we think there should be a fixed timing. Like, every day you should be consuming at the same time. And we always have a tendency to follow the wall clock. In fact, that's the first thing that we should all stop doing, Forget about the wall clock. Redirect yourself to your body. Let your body express when it wants food. Okay. And the body's way of expression of when it wants food, because food is the fuel of the body to function. Like, if you imagine this as a vehicle, as your car, your engine is your stomach. And the engine will ask for fuel in the form of food. So the moment you feel hunger pangs, the hunger pangs is never to be confused with acidity. I'm talking about the hunger pangs which you get with a flat stomach, not with a bloated stomach. Okay. So the moment you get good, strong hunger pangs, that is when you should be consuming food. So that is the time for food, and there is no fixed time. Like, provided you wake up early in the morning, you'll definitely get hungry by 8, 9, I'm sure, because body will have the energy only for that much to function. So that is about the timing for food. Next is the quantity of food. Again, the quantity should not be decided by a second person, because it varies from day to day and climate to climate, and also depending on the kind of activity that you are involved in. Say for a highly active person, the quantity of food will be more in comparison to the quantity required for a person who is leading a sedentary life. Okay, so the quantity is again expressed by your body. When your body says it is good, satiated, stop it then and there. Forget the number of rotis that you have in a plate. The moment you feel good enough, satiated, stop it there. That is all what you need. And next is like talking about the quality. This is where it helps us in deciding the quantity. Like, there are basically two kinds of food, which is like heavy, and the other one is light. The rice soup, the soupy noodles, these are generally towards the lighter side. And heavy foods are like, you have the fried stuffs, non-veg, nuts, then heavy, creamy, rich foods, then excessively sweet ones. Now, these are heavy foods and they are tough to be digested. So generally, the quantity of food required would be more for the light food when in comparison to the heavy foods. Okay. So if you are consuming heavy food, generally the quantity required will be comparatively less in comparison to the light food. And so that is about the quality of food. And you should be always preferring lighter food in comparison to heavy food, because heavy foods puts too much of pressure on the engine, the stomach, and then the engine will go to dysfunction mode sooner or later. Now we don't want that to happen. We want the engine or the stomach to function smooth throughout our life. So for that, you should be preferring light food, especially for dinners. And the next one is like how many meals per day. Earlier, it was like during the olden days, it was 2 meals. Then we switched to 3 meals. Then it has been 5 meals, now 7 meals. And now it's like whenever you are hungry, you can consume. Or whenever you have access to food, you have a tendency to consume. Actually, technically 2 times a day is enough. But since we are so used to consuming 3 times, I would say 3 times is okay, provided you get hunger pangs. Now, if you do not get hunger pangs, and just because it is time for you to have food, don't have. Because then the body will go into inflammatory mode. In fact, that is one of the major reasons for auto-inflammatory conditions and metabolic disorders, including diabetes and hypercholesterol, raised cholesterol levels. Okay. So 3 meals are good, out of which lunchtime you should be having the comparatively heaviest meal, which means breakfast and dinner should be really light. And if at all you want to have something different, now you can't really keep consuming all the homemade simple foods 24/7, like all throughout the year. You might feel like having something, you might feel like having some kind of junk food, at least occasionally. Then the best time to consume is for lunch. Provided you are hungry, you have got no other health issues, then that is the best time for you to consume heavy to be digested foods. And yeah, and the fifth one is like, talking about balanced diet. Generally people come and ask me, like, especially for when they are coming for weight loss or any other metabolic disorder, they ask the first question they ask is like, what is a balanced diet as per Ayurveda? Like what should be the amount of protein, then how much fiber, how much vitamins, minerals, metals, I don't know what or not. So here I would say that bring your sense organs handy, because your sense organs, which is like your eye, nose, mouth, your sixth sense, which is your mind, they will be able to guide you better. Okay, so not a second person, but it is you yourself who have to decide what should be the kind of diet you need for that particular meal. Even then, I can give you like a briefing on like what it should be like for a diet or for a meal to be balanced, it should contain all the tastes. By taste, I mean the thing that you feel on your tongue, which we generally don't really bother with, actually, as per Ayurveda, there are 6 tastes, okay, which is like, you have sweet, sour, salty, then spicy, pungent, and bitter. These are the 6 tastes as per Ayurveda. So for a meal to be balanced, all these 6 have to be there, but predominantly it has to be sweet. Again, by sweet, I do not mean cane sugar or like honey or stevia. No, it means anything upon consumption makes you feel good. Like, I'm talking about natural good food, okay? Say, for example, when you consume rice, the first bolus of rice, how do you feel? Or the first piece of chapati when you consume, how do you feel? Good. Those kind of foods should be consumed first and in a predominant portion, which is why it is said that the portion of rice should not be very little. It should be at least half or at least 60% of your plate or 60% of what you're consuming. So along with that, there should be spicy, sour, salty, and all the other tastes that you can imagine. That is where, in fact, pickles come handy. It will be saline as well as spicy enough. So, and when you consume the food, make sure that it is light and not always heavy. They have to be fluidy or liquidy, like, you can consume at least soup or soupy noodles or porridge at least once a day, because that will keep your system light enough. And for lunch, if you're having the normal food, how can you make it light? Or how can you ensure there is like enough amount of fluid getting into your system? That is when the water comes in handy. You should be consuming water in between the meal and not just before or not immediately after food. Now, if you can sip in some warm water, boiled, it has to be always boiled, and boiled with the right herb, again, depending on your body type, which an Ayurvedic doctor will be able to help you figure out. Okay. So if you can sip water in between, that will take care of the fluid part. So that is about food. I'm sure it must have been a little too much to take it, but yeah. So these are the basics about consumption of food, and it is very important because food is what your body runs on.
Right. Well, that's one topic we can have a whole session on. The last step you told us.
Yes.
Well, the last step you told us was about when do we retire, when do we sleep? Would you like to talk to us about that? The last step that you mentioned, the 6th step towards well-being, is the 6th step, and the last step is when should we go to sleep?
Okay. Talking about sleep, of course, one goes to, like usually everybody goes to bed in the night. Now, at what time of the night is the point of discussion out here? Ideally, one should be going to bed between 9 and 10 p.m. because that is when the Pitta Kala happens. Like when 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is when the Pitta Kala is. And we do not want our body to be awake at that time. The body has to be in the resting phase. That means it has to be sleeping. So as to ensure that we do not end up with sleep disorders, metabolic disorders, and rise in body temperature. So Ayurvedically speaking, that is the time when your brain or your mind has to be put to sleep, put to rest, so that it can function healthy during the rest of the day. Now, before going to bed, there are certain things to be taken care of. One, by the setting sun or dusk, we have to start retiring for the day actually. Like, it's not just like by when it is 10 p.m. bang on bed. No, it's not that way. By dusk, you have to start retiring for the day. By evening, say around 7 p.m., you should be having a light dinner. That is the ideal time for dinner. It's not the time for supper, rather it's the ideal time for dinner. And within 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours of the same, you should be retiring for the day. And before you retire for the day, it is ideally said that, and Ayurvedically it is said that you should be just like, going through all the things that you did, like, thinking and trying to figure out like were you able to do all the day activities properly, or like what are the things that you would like to do for the next day. Like, that kind of a thinking process only should be done in the evening and not a major amount of work. Okay, so actually with dusk starts the retiring process, ideally. But in our daily lives, at least if we can, retire for bed by 9:30, that is good enough. 9:30.
Well, that's the start of a new habit for all of us. Alka, you froze. Yeah. For a moment, your pain kind of froze. We'd like to now move on to discussing your Vaishak farm. What kind of herbs do you grow there? We have 1 or 2 pictures which I could flash while you talk to us. Can you talk to us a bit about what you grow in your farm?
All right. So we own a farm along the Vaishak Gardens. Along the Western Ghats, which is called the Vaishak Gardens. It's basically my dad's brainchild, which took birth in 2015. So we mainly grow exotic fruits like the red-fleshed dragon fruit. Then we have rambutan, which is like we have there you see our farm, the dragon fruit farm. That is what you get to see out here in the image. And we also grow rambutan, the yellow and red variety. Mangosteen is also there. And we also grow the Hawaiian variety pineapple, banana, plantain, and all those. Yes. So we are also into the preparation of a few value-added products from these fruits. The first one which we had come up with was kombucha. Yeah, you see kombucha out there. We have got basically kombucha in 3 drinks, the 3 flavors. This is Shankapushpam, which you see out here. And we also have it in dragon fruit flavor and ginger lime flavor. So basically kombucha is a completely natural, probiotic, naturally fizzy drink. It's considered as the natural and healthier alternative for soft drinks. The highlight being that you use actual fruits for this. Actual fruits in its preparation, and no amount of preservatives or colors are required for the same.
There's one more picture here. So these are the 3 flavors.
Yes, these are the 3 flavors. You have ginger lime, Shankapushpam, or blue pea flower, which is like a very good brain tonic the flower you can see on the left hand side on the upper corner, which is the purple flower. And the third flavor is dragon fruit flavor. And you can see in the image that this is a variety of dragon fruit that we grow in our farm. Okay, generally people think that it's one of the tasteless fruits that you can ever come across, because that is the one which we have usually tasted. But actually, the variety, or this particular variety that is being grown in our farm, we find it to be much tastier than the one which we get imported from the Asian part. And we attribute these qualities to maybe the soil, the climate, the kind of nourishment we give, because it's actually a tasty fruit. It holds a whole lot of health benefits. And as an Ayurvedic professional, what I would like to say is, like, more than all the vitamin C, B, iron, and all those, like, micronutrients that it contains, as I've tried understanding from the point of view of an Ayurvedic professional, it is that this particular fruit is good for you for two facts. One, it instantaneously energizes you. It can be said to be a Jeevaniya fruit. And that would be probably the reason why therefore it is said to be, or like cancer patients, AIDS patients, then people with vitamins B and C deficiency, and those who have been infected with this one. Even COVID-19, we have found that it to be helping people recover from COVID-19 infection, as well as these conditions are there. Malaria, not malaria. I can't really think of that. Okay, anyways, it is like one of the most Jeevaniya fruit, or like an energizing fruit that you can. Another major health benefit, which is it helps in cleansing your body. By now, you must have understood how important is it to keep our system clean and clutter-free. And this one fruit helps in bowel evacuation, easy bowel evacuation. And if you can consume half of a fruit or quarter piece of a fruit, this fruit will take care of your daily cleansing. And this property of the fruit is attributed to the seeds. So it's also a super fruit from the Ayurvedic perspective, because it helps in cleansing.
Right. And could you tell us a little bit about this Tanmatra Ayurveda, which you are a founder of? What, show us the products that you created. I've got some pictures from you for sure, but tell us a little bit about Tanmatra Ayurveda.
So, okay, so
somebody has put a message. They've missed the name of the fruit.
Okay, it's dragon fruit, the pink variety, pink flesh dragon fruit.
Thank you.
Yes. Over to you, Alka. Tell us about Tanmatra.
Okay, I have been practicing for the past 4 years. And during the course of my practice, what I found was, food is very important, the right amount of food, nothing in excess, nothing in less quantity, but the right kind and right amount of food is the most important thing while treating a person. So that is when I started referring more about what are the foods that can help a person heal, and or what are the foods that can be suggested to people who are suffering from certain ailments. And that is when I was like, okay, there are a couple of these combinations which can be utilized by my patients. If they can use it on a daily basis, they don't have to use it as medicine, but it is also a nutrition, So those foods which can be also used as medicine, those are called nutraceuticals. So Tanmatra Ayurveda products are basically nutraceuticals, and we try making them preservative free and unrefined. You won't find them in bright colors or like, an interesting format with a long shelf life, nothing of that. So these will be daily beverages or like herbal infusions or foods, consumables basically, that can be consumed on a daily basis to maintain your health. So then yeah, sure.
No. I would like to show some of the pictures of your product so you can talk to us while we flash the pictures.
Sure. Maybe can you post the one on summer drink? Summer drink.
Yeah. I think I have the right one. Let's see. Is this the one?
Yes. So this was the first product that we came up with, like in March. It was like, it was like extremely hot, humid, and summer. And then I started searching for what are the things to be done during summer so as to cool one's body. It started with mine and my family, which you find with it is basically in a concentrate form, without preservatives. And I have used cane sugar purposefully because generally there's so much of taboo around cane sugar. Like, cane sugar is one of the worst things to be consumed. Like it can lead to weight gain or the metabolic disorders. But actually, if you can use cane sugar in the right quantity and in the right form and in the right condition, like if your body really needs it. Say, for example, summer is one climate when generally people need it. Not the diabetic lot, but all the others, they need it. So that is why we have come up with this product called Summer Drink, using cane sugar, which itself has been prepared without preservative. Like the cane sugar itself has been used as a preservative. So we are trying to employ these natural means of preservation.
There are two other products that you've sent us. I don't know which is what. I'll just flash the first one. Yeah. Can you see? Golden latte.
So, yes. Yeah, golden latte. Okay, this product is yet to be launched. It is on hold just because of the lockdown and issues. So this I had actually curated considering the pandemic era. Like, when we need to have a very good health or immunity. Like, everybody's after immunity. So it's basically about having a very good immune system. For the same, we have created this particular, it's a herbal mix basically. All the herbs have been put into a powdered form. And this is yet to be launched, hoping that we can launch at least by next week. And this, if consumed daily, it will help you in keeping a system free of all these accumulants and making you prone to infections. So the main component that I've used in the same is turmeric, and this turmeric is indigenous variety of turmeric from our farm.
Right.
And with few other herbs.
Yeah. I'll show the last one.
Oh,
Right.
Okay. Yes, this product is also yet to be launched for the same reason. So this is a product again which I have curated, considering the women of menopausal age, like in the perimenopausal and menopausal age group, when they feel hot flushes, mood tantrums, then lack of sleep, like episodic sweats. So it's considering that particular stage that we have come up with Meno-Ease, which is not menopause, but a product that helps you ease through the menopause. So it's basically for cooling and like making your body feel comfortable and helping you cater the hormonal imbalance.
Right. So, Alka, I think that brings us to the end of our session with you. Most
Yes.
You've told us how to start revisiting how we live our lives. And
Yes. Yeah.
thank you on behalf of Shrinkala. And if we have any more questions, we will email them to you and get back to our audiences.
Even
Sure,
on the
sure.
chat right now, people can post their questions and we can take it to Alka.
Yes.
Because we have our other speaker waiting.
Right. Thank you very much, Alka, for your time. Dr. Alka.
Thank you.
Yes. So I would like to now hand over the floor to my friend Nisha, who will talk to us about the EcoChamp contest. Nisha, over to you.
Usha, just give me a second, please.
In that meantime, Alka, if you could look at the chat, some questions are there. Which oil do you recommend for Abhangam? Somebody has asked.
It's Abhyangam. Abhyangam.
Okay. And how do we know our body types was the other question. So if you could reply on chat, it would be, we would be very grateful.
Okay.
Nisha, are you ready?
Yeah.
Shall I flash the EcoChamp poster?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
All right, we have this Eco Champion contest, and we are just looking at basic 3 criteria. That would be, I'm audible, right?
Yes.
So the first, there are only 3 criteria that we're looking at. The most number of initiatives adopted by an individual. Another criteria is the most innovative initiative taken by an individual. And the third criteria that we're looking at is the original idea for individual or community-based initiative. And all these criteria or the options that we are looking at are towards sustainable living that we're looking at. The contest is open to all, and take pictures, take selfies with whatever you are doing for sustainable living, and send it to the WhatsApp number of Dr. Anamika on 34136058. We are accepting entries till the 29th of June. And on 30th of June, we'll announce the Eco Champion. That's all from me.
Can I
Back to
ask
you.
a question? Can I ask
Yeah,
a question?
please.
So can it be regarding projects that we did in the past, or it has to be something that we are doing at present?
Dr. Anamika, would you like to answer that?
She's on mute.
It can be from anything
Definitely,
in
it
the
can.
past. So, yeah, Anamika.
Yes, 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 definitely it can be from the past also. So that we can also learn from you. And if you are trying anything else, let us know that also. Or maybe you have taken any initiative beforehand, or maybe in past years. That is also fine. All our purpose is to spread the awareness, and so that we also learn from you. That is our main concern.
Yeah, thank you. And I also wanted to just point out that this number that you have, the WhatsApp number, which is there on your poster, it is invalid number. It doesn't even ring.
Okay, we shall look into it. So if we can move on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get back to you. And would you like to show us the examples of the kind of entries you've received? You've got a bunch of pictures, right?
Yes, sure. But before that, I would just grab the opportunity to thank the wonderful Shrinkala team, and also all the participants who is actually supporting us joining. And it's a request, keep us joining. We have various upcoming sessions which are informative and helpful. So I will just share a few wonderful entries which we are getting, though we are getting enormous amounts. So some of the very creative ideas we'll like to share now. Just a minute, I will share. Can I share?
You can, Anamika.
Okay, thank you.
Anamika, it's not
are you
showing.
sharing it, Anamika? We can't see.
Is it not
Share
visible?
screen. Share screen, Anamika.
Yes, yes, sure. Just a minute.
Meantime, Nisha, do you want to announce what we are going to be doing the following 2 sessions?
Can I share now?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not showing.
It's not
Yeah.
showing, Anamika. Just share.
Yes.
Yeah. Nisha, yeah.
It's coming.
Is it showing now?
Yes.
Okay. These are actually all the plastic waste and different creations from the waste.
Yeah, Nisha.
By these small things also we can try
Hello?
out the ways to save our environment and create less pollution. All that we need is to rethink and recalibrate so that we can understand that what exactly we need and what exactly we don't need. And as we had a talk on our first day about minimalism, so we should learn about minimizing our needs. That is the most important thing, because the more our needs are, the more trash we are creating. So that is also a thing.
Thank you, Anamika.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Nisha, would you like to tell us about the next session that we are planning on June 14th? And then we'll quickly move on to our second speaker.
Yeah, I'll do that. On the 14th of June, we have a session by Soumitra Adhikari. Basically, it's a greenery in abstract where we have and on the 17th of June, we will have Pallavi Jain, who would be showing us how to upcycle bags and cushions from old t-shirts. The sessions will be again from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And 14 June, we have Soumitra and Kailash Vishwakarma. Kailash Vishwakarma will be showing us paper bags from old newspapers. And on the 17th June is Pallavi Jain, who would be showing us how to upcycle bags and cushions from old t-shirts. And Dr. Anamika Chatterjee will be Bhattacharya will be back with Nature's Paradise for small kids 5 to 8 years. So we'll share the poster details on the poster soon in the coming week. So see you all then in the next week as well. Over to you, Usha.
Thank you, Nisha. So we hope to see you all soon, and without losing any more time, let's quickly move on to the second speaker for today. We are going to have a talk on gardening tips and caring about plants in our desert summer by Ms. Farzana Jaber Shakar. Welcome on board, Ms. Farzana. Welcome to Shrinkhala's Environmental Awareness Campaign for this 2021. A quick introduction to Ms. Farzana. Ms. Farzana is a housewife and she has studied business and is a multi-talented personality who loves gardening, art, handicrafts, and design. She has attended many courses and workshops in all the subjects of her interest. She has held office as a board member in the Bahrain Garden Club. Today, Ms. Farzana will give us a short talk on the topic of gardening and tips about caring for plants in our severe summer conditions. And she'll be happy to answer questions after her talk. Over to you, Ms. Farzana. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. And it was a very nice introduction for me. That was good. So I don't need to say anything more. Okay, so we can straightforward start with our topic. First, I want to say Happy Environment Day to everybody. Actually, it's not a Happy Environment Day. Every day should be an Environment Day. This is what I think. So because of this environment that we have, it's a gift from God that we have to take care of, and thank God for it. So, and of course, whenever you say environment, the first thing comes into your mind is trees, green, all these natural things that we have to take care of. Okay, so let's start with gardening. As Mr. Asha told, it's my passion, and I've done so many courses and workshops, and it is very, very simple. It is a very big world of information and knowledge, but it is easy. It's a very challenging habit, or a very challenging, task to do. Okay, so if we want to start about gardening, I think, as I said, it's a very easy thing, and I do encourage everybody to plant. If you are living in a flat, in a house, you have a garden, you don't have a garden, this is not the issue. You can plant anywhere, everywhere, and whatever you like. Okay, so if we want to talk about gardening, as I said, gardening is a world of knowledge. It's nutrition, it's art, it's meditation, it's landscaping, which is design, it is creativity. Everything is in gardening. And as I said, it's very simple. Once you want to start your garden, the main points that you have to consider is, what do you want to have in your garden? Do you want to have a barbecue area? Do you have a sitting area? You want to have a playground, or you want to have only kitchen garden, rock garden? Before you start gardening, you have to consider these points, and then you can decide what to do. So if you want to have, if you do have a big garden, you can have different sections. You can have a sitting area, you can have a barbecue area, you can have a kitchen garden, you can have a playground. All these things is beginning how to start your garden. Once you decided all these things, then you can go to second step, which means preparing your soil. This is a very, very important factor to have a successful gardening. Before you plant, you have to study the whole area. You have to choose the plants that you want. Then you prepare your soil. Preparing the soil, of course, means putting some fertilizers. And of course, we go for organic. as we care for our health. It's better than the chemical stuffs. The first step is in preparing soil is you have to add some nutrition, which means manure, which is an organic item, and compost. Once you add the manure and compost to the soil, you have to keep it like for a while, a week or 10 days, give it water. So the soil will absorb the manure and all the fertilizing items that you put in, then it will be ready to plant. After that, then you can start your planting. This is if you have a garden. But if you don't have a garden, if you are living in a flat, or if you have a small house, you can just take some compost and you can take some containers. And of course, you can recycle, as Mrs. Anamika just showed you. You can use any plastic item, recycle it, just do some planting in it. You can use the compost and put some seeds, get your vegetables, and at least it's vegetables that you can do. If you are living in a flat or anything, at least you can plant your own vegetables. You plant your seeds, get your vegetables, and eat fresh. So this is basic about gardening. And the thing is, as I said, if you want to design your garden, you have to take into consideration the points that I said. After that, then it will be better to put your kitchen garden close to your kitchen. You can keep a corner for your children to play around or to play and relax in your garden. The other thing is I would like to say, and choosing plants. Once you want to start your gardening, it's very important to know which plant to choose. The height of the plants, the type of the plants, the color of the plants. These items are very important factor to have a beautiful garden. Of course, we have trees, we have shrubs, we have climbers, we have ground covering, we have bulbs, we have flowers. So there is a huge different type of plants that you can put in your garden. And it is very important that we go organic. Now everybody, as Dr. Alka said, I will use her phrase, she said our body, if our body is the machine of our body is our stomach. So we have to give it a good fuel. A good fuel will be organic foods rather than all the foods that we can bring with all the chemicals and all these stuff. So if it's easy, if we can provide our food by ourselves, why not do it? I think it's very easy, and it is it's very challenging because once you start your seeds, you might not be successful from the first time. This will give you, a challenge to try again until you get it done and successfully get your vegetables or your plants done properly. This is the basic concept of gardening. And of course, gardening is, as I said, you can do it everywhere. If you have a small balcony, you can put it in containers and you can use type of plants that are beautiful and can fit in a small areas. For example, if you like to have a climber, you can plant the blue tea. It's a very nice climber and you can eat the flowers. Or you can plant sweet potatoes. You will have something hanging from your balcony and you can eat the leaves and the sweet potato itself. So it's like both 2 in 1, as you say. You can make your balcony nice, you can enjoy the view, and you can eat from it. So these are things that I really encourage everybody to do. And inshallah, you will enjoy it. And as I said, gardening is a big word. It's a very big word. And even when you can plant the things that you have in your mind. Like, for example, you can plant foods that are not available in shops or anywhere. You can just try planting it and it will be, inshallah, successful. Yani we can now in Bahrain, we have tried so many things. We never thought that we can plant a pineapple. I ate a pineapple from my garden and I was so happy to eat it. And the taste looked different for me. It was like a gold from my garden if I just eat a pineapple from my garden. So once you provide the good environment for it and give it a good fertilization, give it good food for your plant, you will get a good outcome of it from your garden. I mean, outcome, fruit, whether flower, whatever it is. So this is the basic thing of gardening that I can tell you. And I do like to encourage you all to do your gardening. If you have if you don't have a balcony, even your kitchen window, you can plant your vegetables like coriander, mint, and this will stay all the year with you. You know, you can just cut it, eat fresh, and have it. And if you plant like your tomatoes, your eggplant, even if you get a big quantity of it, you can just freeze it and keep it for next season or whatever. If you can freeze it, you can keep it for longer time. So that's why I do encourage everyone to do gardening, enjoy it, touch the soil. You won't believe once you touch the soil, how do you feel? It's like a meditation. You leave everything at the back. Once you are you with the soil, the feeling is different. You will forget everything, all the stress, all these things will be gone once you touch the soil. And of course, it's very enjoying. I really hope that you all try it, whether in the garden, whether container and everything. And one more thing is, once you go into gardening, I mean, you cannot stop. This is as per my experience and my friend's experience. It's a big world. You can, you know, doors will open for you. You want to plant seeds. If it's not successful, then you have to read the directions. Once you read the direction, you get new vocabularies, new words. You get more into science, okay? And once you did the planting, once you plant your flower or whatever it is, you watch it growing, it's like your baby. You're growing, you can take care of it like your baby, and it will give you back. It will give you fruit or flower, whatever, depending on what you planted. It's a very enjoyable, very interesting. And the thing is, in summer, actually in Bahrain, as I said, we can plant so many things. Before we didn't know that, but now once more, I can say ladies more than gentlemen have gone into this field, and they did it more seriously. And we really did so many experiments, so many things. And so with so many things we passed, I mean, we were successfully doing it. And what can I say? In summer, okay, so basic topic was how do you take care of your plant in summer? Of course, our weather is very hot. So once the temperature is getting high, the first thing you have to do is to protect your plants from the heat of the sun. So if you have your plants in the ground, if it's a small tree, or especially if they are small, you can simply cover them, put a shade for it, so it will not be exposed to direct sun. If your plants are in containers, you can remove your containers, put them under trees. If they are small, as much as you can, and whatever you can remove them, put them under the shade of trees. And so you know, they will be exposed to less sun in our summer. The other thing you can do is cover your soil with mulch. Mulch, you don't have just to buy the ones that are sold in nurseries, but you can use many things as a mulch. You can use the fallen leaves. This is what I do. We've got plenty of leaves. I just put them in my flower pots, the corner that are empty from in the summer, or even around the trees. You cover them with a thick layer of leaves, or palm tree leaves, or even any if you like have a shredded wooden, you can cover your soil with it, so it will not be exposed to the temperature that we have. And of course, you do water it. In summer, it will be better to water your plants twice a day, early in the morning and early in the evening. This is the best 2 times that you can plant you can water your garden, so to reduce the heat. And the third thing that you can do is stop giving manure to your plants. Of course, plants are living things and they do need fertilizer all the way. It's like a food for them. But in summer, you cannot give because they are exposed to the heat that we have and the ground is very hot. So they are fighting to survive. You cannot add more heat to it. So if you want to feed your plant, the best thing is to do is add some compost and or tea compost. These are not too hot for the plants. You can give them, but in a very small quantity. But again, it's either early in the morning or early in the evening. You have to avoid watering your plants at noontime, especially our temperature that goes 40 and plus. So we have to avoid it. We have to be very careful with our plants. There are so many plants that's supposed to be seasonal. We can keep them for next season. For example, I will say the name of the flower. We have a flower called geranium. It's a very, very beautiful flower. It is a seasonal flower, but if you can keep it in a shaded area, water it, it will stay for you for like 1 or 2 years. I had mine, I put it indoor, or you can change the soil and bring it inside, close to the window. You can keep it for 2 or 3 years. The same plant, it will survive. So we just need to know how to protect them from the summer. And inshallah, if the more you protect, the more they will survive for you. Okay, so this is a small briefing I wanted to say about gardening. And if there is any questions, of course, I don't mind. And I hope it will be useful for you.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Farzana. That was very nice, useful
You're
tip
welcome.
that you gave. I wanted to ask, I've heard that Portulaca
Yes.
is a very good plant to plant in summer because it takes away the excess salt from the soil. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is good. But again, you have to take care of it so it will survive for you.
Yes. Okay, and so the same thing applies for if you put it in a pot. Does it make the soil in the pot better?
It depends on what you use for your pot. Because for pot, yes, compost, peat moss, and perlite are the best 3 combination for pots. It will be, adding manure is not recommended at all. You can add some soil, but compost, peat moss, and perlite. These 3 combinations are the best for pots.
What is the third one you said? Peat moss and?
Perlite.
Sorry, say that again.
Perlite, Pertile, perlite. Yes.
Is it those white small?
Yes, it's like white bubbles.
Yeah.
And it is very light. This helps the aeration of the soil in the pot.
Okay, but
and this is organic.
It's non-organic, right? It's non-organic.
It is organic.
Thermocol.
Perlite.
Yeah, it's made of thermocol, I think, isn't it?
This is, they say it's like a volcanic foams.
I see, okay.
Okay, this is when you add it to your soil, it just adds, it makes the aeration more easier.
Yes.
So the roots can, breathe easily in the soil.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Farzana, can you tell us what is the difference between manure and compost?
Yes, sure. Manure, they are both organic, of course, but manure is what you get from the animal waste. Okay, so it is very hot. That's why you cannot add it in summer unless it is decomposted. But compost it's when you add the organic items like the kitchen waste, the leaves, all the organic items, you just let them together and let it be decomposed. Then when they are ready, you can add it to your soil. So this is not very hot for the soil, but still, if you want to add it to your soil, it will be very preferable that you make it a bit wet a day before, so reduce the heat and add it to your soil. But this can be added in summer.
So somebody has commented, Anil has commented that it is also called organic compost.
Yes, compost is organic. It is an organic item.
Well, then what is an organic fertilizer?
The non-organic fertilizer is the one sold in the nurseries. It's called like NPK. They sell iron, but these are all prepared. This is not natural. Okay,
Right.
like nitrogen, if you decompose the leaves, it's an organic nitrogen. Okay, but the one they sell it, it's like a powder. Actually, everybody use it. I'm anti. I'm organic and I'm anti NPKs, anti chemicals. So this is the NPKs provide food. Like now, so many gardens they plant lemon or orange, and they get the fruit because they are adding the NPK, and they get, mashallah, good fruit as well. Okay, if you want to go organic, you have to add like seaweeds, you have to add manure, compost, and you have to add all the organic items with a bigger quantity, with more quantity, more frequent, to get the lemon and oranges, So it is more effort, but more healthy.
And what about organic pesticides then?
Yes, organic pesticide. Everybody, all of you, neem tree. This is the simplest one. You can take neem leaves, boil them, let it cool down, and then you can mix it with like 1 spoon of soap, dish soap, the liquid soap, and water, and you can spray it on your leaves. So even if you eat this is neem. The other thing, neem oil is more protective than anti-pesticide. Okay, but if you spray this one, you can keep your plants fresh and healthy. But if you have any insects, or they are injured, or they have any bacteria or anything, you can use the other one. Like what I use for my garden, I smashed 1 or 2 garlic and soak it in like 1 cup of vinegar. Okay, it will be preferable organic vinegar, but if it's not there, but still okay. I put the 2 garlic in the jar full of vinegar. I write the date on it. This one, you can use it after 10 days. Let it soak in the vinegar. After 10 days, you can use 1 spoon, like 10 ml of this liquid, add it to 1 liter of water, and just spray it in your garden. So this one I use even for my vegetable. And if you eat it, it's nothing. It's vinegar and garlic. So there is no chemicals in it. And it gets rid of all the insects and all the bad insects that you have in your garden.
Wow.
Okay.
It's a lot of work. So can you tell us a little bit about maintenance of a garden?
Yes, maintenance of the garden reduce the cost of the garden. Gardening is costly, but if you maintain it, you will reduce your cost. How do you maintain it? Is to keep it free of weeds, pest control, pruning your garden, collecting your seeds. This one you have to do it, because if you prune your trees at the right time, you can do it yourself. You don't need help. Okay. And once you prune your garden, you can take all the stems that you done, just put them in the soil, you might get another tree. So you are here reducing the cost instead of buying another tree. Controlling the weeds, you can spray the neem oil, as I said, in your garden, even if you don't have anything. Don't let weeds grow in your garden, because then you have to fight it and you have to treat it, and it takes long procedure and it is costly for you. And then we have, what did I say? I said weed control, I said pruning, and pest control as well. If your trees are healthy, again, you are free. You don't need to spend money on treating them and just use so many medicine on everything to get rid of the pesticide. So if your garden is healthy, if it's maintained, it stays healthy. If it's healthy, you are reducing your costs.
Right. And therefore, any tips on how to maintain and create a low-cost garden?
Low cost, yeah. As I
Yes.
said, maintaining it is part of keeping it a low cost. Okay. The other thing is having a low cost garden is to plant annual plants, like or to have shrubs, to have trees. Because nowadays, especially if they have a small garden, you see them full of flower at the season, the flowering season, which is spring from January to March or May. After that, it's a dead garden. It's empty. This is not right. To do it right is to plant shrubs, because shrubs stays all the year. And if you plant shrubs or you plant bulbs, and there are plants that stays all the year, it's green, and when it's flowering season, it flowers. So your garden will not be empty, and you have the same plant. These type of plants, like for example, a plant called kanna. It's a very nice tall flower, and it stays green all the year, except for the seasoning time, it flowers. Then you have like for lemongrass. Lemongrass is I really like it because it's a bushy, all the way green. And again, you can drink the tea. You can use it in many, curries that you cook. This is what I do. And you can make many plants from out of one flower, out of one plant. So you can buy one, you get so many out of it, use it in your food and give it to your friends, and still you can add and propagate more of it. And again, you can add some shrubs in your garden. This is again cost effective. If the garden is not empty, then you don't have to pay every year to fill it in. So you must have some spaces with fixed or annually shrubs or trees or plants, and small gap for seasonal flowers. And even the seasonal flowers, unfortunately, most of the families here in our country, they buy the flower every season. Once the season over, the gardener throw it out. Next season, you have to buy again. There is a very simple way to avoid this. Wait for one year when you plant your flowers. Wait, let it dry. Bear the view, it looks ugly, whatever. Collect your seeds. Out of one flower, you can cover all your garden. So collect your seeds. Next season, you use your seeds and plant your garden. Even one flower can give you so many seeds that you can give to your friends as well. So in this case, you have avoided buying seasonal flower every year. You can use your own seeds, plant them. Again, you can do the out of pruning. If you prune your trees, you can make propagation. Any cut, myself, whenever I cut any tree, any shrub I have, I just take the cuts and put them in a soil. Out of 10, maybe sometimes I get 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, whatever. I get some. I just bought one rose, and now, mashallah, alhamdulillah, I have 10 roses in my house, in addition to the roses that I gave to my friends and my family.
Wow.
So this is how you reduce the cost. Yeah, it is very easy. It's a very challenging actually, because once you you put your cuts to get a plant, if you out of 10, you get, for me, the first time out of 10, I got 2, I was so happy. It was very nice. So this has encouraged me to do it again. And I kept on doing it. And as I said, mashallah, now 10 rows out of 1. And in addition to the one that I gave to my friends. The same thing with the lemongrass. I had one lemongrass. Once the lemongrass, the good thing is about it, it grows very fast and it's very easy to propagate. You just take one from the root, put it in the soil, it becomes another one. So what I do with my lemongrass, I do the same. Once it's very shrub, but once it's very big, I keep one in the soil, take out the rest, plant it in different places. Some give it to my friends, and everybody has got lemongrass.
So this is abundance in the middle of, it's abundance in minimalism, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
and
amazing.
how to become your friend, Farzana, is what I'm thinking.
Sorry?
How to become your friend is what I'm thinking.
You are all my friends. You are all my friends.
Thank you. I need those plants.
One last question. from our side is,
Yeah.
how do you bring in art in gardening? How do you
Yes.
incorporate art in gardening?
Okay, art in garden. Art basically art is about colors, right? Mixing colors, painting. So once you know the plants, you can combine the colors in your garden, get a very, very beautiful view and art, like like a piece of art in it. Because for myself, not only me, I mean, even if you want to plant your garden, look, before you plant, you have to make a little research. Once you choose, like we have a plant called croton, which is all the year, and it's only basically more leaves than flowers, and there are so many colors of it. So if you have like a croton in your garden, and in the flowering season you put just few flowers in front next to it, add some colors, so altogether it's like a paint. It's a very beautiful thing. And even pruning the trees, you have your tree in front of you, just look at it. You want to make it square, you want to make it round, you do follow the branches, and so it's, for me, this is an art, I watch the branch, I collect the branches that I want to cut, I shape it. This is an art for me.
Awesome.
The colors are art for me. The recycling is art for me. Once I take, in my house, I don't throw anything. If I have a if I have a plate with a broken edge, I just use it, plant something in it. Do it in a nice way. For me, this is an art.
So then we have an eco champ amongst us here.
Yes, yes. So wonderful to hear you,
I
Susanna.
think Hassan has raised his hand. Does he
Yeah.
want to say something?
Mr. Hassan?
No?
No.
Or
Carry
maybe
on.
he wants
Hassan.
a
In the
clap or
meanwhile, I have a
appreciation,
question.
I guess.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
think he
question.
wanted to applaud.
Appreciate, yeah.
Okay.
We all do, Farzana.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank
Do
you
we
very much.
have,
I really wish you ladies, I really wish that you all plant something.
yes.
Just to start, you will not stop. It's it's just a click. Once you touch it, once you start, you will not stop. It's very, very enjoyable, very, very meditating,
Fulfilling.
very, yes, sorry.
Very fulfilling as well.
Of course, yeah.
One last question, if there is time. Farzana,
Yes,
do you use the cut grass for mulching?
Can we use what?
The grass after mowing the lawn, do you use that grass for mulching?
Yes, I do. Yes, it's very good. But before, use it as a mulch. Keep it in one place. Let it dry.
Yeah.
Okay, in 2-3 days, let it be exposed to sun. Let it dry well. Then
Yeah.
you can use it. And
Okay.
once the season is over, you can use the same thing for your compost. I added to my compost barrel. So
Yeah.
the grass cutting first as a mulch,
Yeah.
then as a compost. So it's the life circle is coming back. It's a very, very enjoying, because it's coming back. It's from earth to earth, from earth to earth.
How about just mixing it in the soil? If it's been there for many months, you just mix it in the soil where it
You
already
can do
has
that.
been.
You can do that. You can do that.
Okay.
Again, it's going back to the earth, as I said.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
It's amazing.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Farzana.
You're welcome.
I think today we had a very, very enlightening and fulfilling session with nature and herbs for our human body, for our mental and bodily well-being, and with gardening to wrap it all up, which is promising a meditative experience. So thank you, everyone. We've had a fantastic attendance today. And before we wind up, I would like Nisha to once again remind us about the EcoChamp contest.
Yes, we have EcoChamp contest running throughout this month. We are aiming to have a lifestyle change, or a sustainable living for everyone. So we want as many people as they can to participate. The basic criteria that we're looking at is the most number of initiatives adopted by an individual. The next criteria that we're looking at is the most innovative initiative taken by an individual. And the third criteria that we're looking at is the original idea for individual or a community-based initiative. And all these criterias or the ideas or the initiatives are towards a sustainable living. You can click pictures or selfies with whatever you are doing towards the sustainable living and send in your entries on the WhatsApp number of Dr. Anamika on 34136058. And we will be accepting the entries till the 29th of this month, and post that on 30th June, we will announce the Eco Champion. Over to you, Usha.
And the winning entries will be featured in GDN Live.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
But it's every entry is a winning entry. What we saw to with from Dr. Anamika was amazing. The kind of possibilities and the creative minds we have around us.
Yes,
So
that's true.
we'd like to call it a wrap, Rekha. Shall we call it a day?
Yeah, sure, Usha.
So see you on 14th of June. And
Is there one video that you all want to show, that Nisha's video? Is it ready, or we can show it in the next session?
is it handy?
No, I don't think so. Okay.
No, we'll show it the next time. Yeah.
Next session. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ms. Farzana. We'll come and meet you and visit your garden.
Inshallah, you're welcome anytime. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Have a good day.
Sure.
Shall
Thank
we
you.
stay back? The Shrinkler team will stay back.
Yeah, stay back. The rest of you, thank you so much for attending. Goodbye and see you next Monday.
Thank you so much.
Inshallah.
Please
Thank
have a
you.
lovely eco-friendly weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Take care.